Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, Beef Loaf. This show is being powered by From the 108 and FromThe108.com, where you can get all of our content, top to bottom, blogs, podcasts, and videos, including the world-famous Sunday Soak. You can also get all of our merch there as well, including the infamous Wave Sucks and hashtag 108 in garbs. Currently, we have a Wake Me for the Parade koozie selling at FromThe108.com. It's $5. Go get one, go get 10. It's the kind of thing that never goes out of style. This show is powered by you, the loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat, because that's how we get paid, and that's how we keep making the brand of content you know and love. Tonight's guest. He's one half of the dynamic duo that make up White Sox Daily, a Twitter account, podcast, YouTube, and Twitch brand that brings you their unique take on the White Sox, as well as the most thorough video coverage of White Sox affiliates on Twitter. Ian Eskridge, welcome to the Au Jus. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, thank you. Glad to be on. Thank you.
Excellent to finally talk to you. Let me let you behind the scenes a little bit. Once a year, the 108ers, myself, Treasy, My Sox Summer, we get together. We have our what we call our annual meeting, which is usually us just getting shit-faced on high-octane beers and talking about ideas of things we want to do in the upcoming year. I pitched this idea to them, and you are the last of the 8 names I had written down that I wanted to get on this show. So you're the last one I'm getting in here that I intended on. When I built this, and I was like, I want to have some different people on from White Sox Twitter, talk about different things that people do. You are the final one making an appearance on here, so I appreciate you. I appreciate you making it of my initial list that they love. They were like, "Yeah, we got to get some of these people on here." You know, like one of them was my white whale, Tom Fornelli. I was shocked he said yes, that was willing to do it. But yeah, I mean, so it's nice to get a good flavor. So welcome. Thanks for coming on here and doing this for me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, no problem. So what I want to get into first here, and we talk about this a lot on the Au Jus, is White Sox Daily. How did you and Danny start it? Is it just you two contributing? Kind of what's your thesis, and what are you guys looking to do with the White Sox Daily brand? I've got some ideas from what I see on the internet, and what I do enjoy what you guys do, but I'd love to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
It's kind of a long, drawn-out story, I guess, over years. You know, I ended, from here, me and Danny are the two major guys that do things, mostly the stream. You know, like he's mostly a stream. I've been doing the video stuff for, I don't know, probably about like 6 years now. Like before I started doing it on Twitter, I was just doing it in like a couple of Facebook groups that I was in. Okay. Because, people were interested in the rebuild and they wanted to see what the prospects were doing. So I'd just chop up some video and throw it up there. And I just kept on doing that for a little while. And I got involved with a group with some members of the White Sox Twitter community to possibly start up a new site at one point. And we just, things just kept on getting pushed. And and then 2020 happened. So,
yes,
pretty much everything dropped out. It's like a bunch of people kind of just disappeared, and like the plans for that site just kind of got pushed off a little bit. Okay. So I just kept on doing my thing for a little while. I still talk to those guys. Sleepy Harold's one of those guys.
Oh, and, yeah. Love Sleepy
Jasper
Harold.
Ruse from Future Sox as well is also on there.
Okay.
And Danny was a part of that group as well. I had mentioned his name as somebody that should be brought on because I've known him from Facebook for a bunch of years. Mm-hmm. And after a while of just sitting there, Patrick Flowers, who is now he's the lead NFL writer for Bleacher, and me and him started this thing together with a couple of other guys, and the idea was to have both North Side and South Side stuff on the same site.
Okay.
And after a little while, the North Side guys, got jobs that paid them really well, so they dipped out, and then it just left us. And then Patrick got offered, an opportunity to write for a big publication, and so he dipped out.
Yeah.
So
understandable.
I'm just sitting here like, okay, well, I guess this is mine now. So we have Xavier who does like a on Twitter. You guys mentioned him the last week.
Yeah, Matt
Just a month
Zawoski
ago.
mentioned that. Yeah, he does. He does the things on Twitter, and yes, absolutely know who that is.
Yeah, he does some stuff for us. He is like kind of in and out. He's got a lot of stuff going on with his life, so like he does what he does. And we also have Dan Victor around.
Oh,
Who
okay,
you see
yeah,
on you see him on
I know Dan.
Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, he's in North Carolina watching all the prospects and stuff. He actually just put out a piece today on Noah Schultz, which we just dropped out on Twitter. So
Nice.
yeah, more or less, it's just chopping up a lot of video and watching a lot of minor league baseball. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, man, it sounds like, and that's kind of what I get out of. If I want to see any of the minor league players and get an update on absolutely anyone, your the White Sox Daily Twitter handle is where to go. I mean, that's where you can get clips of basically anyone out there. You guys, for my money, I think you're the only one basically doing it. I mean, that's from what I could see, or at least the only one visible to me. Where if I want to go, oh, what does this player look like, or what, how are things? And I'm not a analyze someone's swing thing, but you do want to watch. You want to put eyes on people and kind of understand what they might look like as they head north to Chicago. So it's much appreciated that you do that. You said that the Cubs guys got lucrative jobs. Was it in this media field, or was it doing something else? They were just like, well, I got no time for this anymore.
Yeah, the guy the main guy that did that stuff, he ended up getting a job, for what he actually went to school for. He's running a nonprofit. So
Oh, nice, cool.
I mean, great for him. But it's like it's Cubs stuff anyway, so I don't really, I don't care. So,
Yeah, that's kind of the way I am. I had Matt Zawoski on last week. He's one of my favorite people to have on, and I really like his White Sox stuff. But he does a White Sox Cubs show, and so sometimes like they start talking Cubs, I'm like, I'm still got it on, but I'm like zoning off in the various places. I'm like, I don't know, I know nothing about the Cubs.
Because I watch the Barons a lot, I do see a lot of the Cubs prospects when they play the Smokies a lot. And
Okay.
one thing that I have developed is a particular dislike of Pete Crow Armstrong.
Okay. Just playing style, or you think he's a jerk, or what?
Yeah, he's just a big mouth, man. It's like anytime he gets rung up, he's crying about it, throwing stuff around, and I just don't not a fan.
Let's get to this drink real quick. CJ says, love seeing you all at the park last week. Cheers. Cheers, CJ. Thank you very much. Now, Ian, you mentioned that Danny came in with the streaming. So it was his idea to get you guys going with a podcast on YouTube and try. I know you guys do Twitch as well. And would you recommend we simulcast on Twitch? We thought about it a little bit. And we're like, yeah, but then we have to try to build up a new area we don't really know anything about.
So as far as so we're actually planning to start simulcasting and put that stuff on YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of started out watching streaming on Twitch during the pandemic.
Yep.
Like Lucas Giolito was on, and
playing video games and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Carlos Rodon was on a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I hung out on there quite a bit. And I just decided, I'm gonna create a stream for Twitch. And me and Patrick started out doing the podcast. I did some with Xavier as well.
Okay.
And then Danny came on, and nobody was streaming at the time.
Correct.
Nobody had started streaming at the time.
Nobody.
So
I agree with this because I know about when we started streaming. It's not that long ago, so it was definitely not in 2020. Yeah. Like 2020, we were not doing hardly any video at all. We would do little clips on Twitter or something just to make fun. We would have our 108 Tourney post-game shows. We'd stream live on Twitter. But other than that, we didn't do... We had Sunday Soak, but that was a different thing. That was not streaming. That was canned and then thrown up, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, I do AV for a living.
Okay.
I started out as a touring front of house guy for bands. And so I moved into, just on dumb luck, really, I started working at a casino doing all of the AV stuff there.
Okay.
And so I kind of taught myself video production stuff while I was, while I've been working there. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to start doing a stream. I built myself a computer, and
Nice.
and I just started making, started building like a, framework for like a background with like moving graphics and all sorts of stuff for our stream. And then we just started streaming one day. And I think, you guys had started streaming using like the StreamYard stuff. You guys and Sox Machine
Yep.
started like maybe like, I don't know, a month before we did.
Oh, with doing that, like the podcast, putting a full podcast in there.
Yeah, and then doing the stream at the same time, and then releasing the podcast later.
The audio later. That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, and it was just it took a while to get it built up. I mean, first, we're talking pandemic year, so I'm sitting here waiting for parts for my computer for months and months and months. So finally, once I got it, like we started doing it. But I mean, it took a while, and I've taught myself some tricks over the years, like making overlays and graphics and like moving stuff. I mean, you saw it the one time I was on with the running TLR little movie that goes over the top of our screen. It's like I taught myself how to do stuff like that just out of an interest of making a better stream. Now, as far as Twitch goes, I mean, there are certain things that are good about it, certain things that are bad. Like the qualifications are lower for getting payouts and stuff like that on Twitch.
Okay. Yep.
And you get to make customized emotes and stuff like that, which
that's
is
nice.
Yeah, it's kind of cool for the chat. Like I've got like I still haven't removed it, but like the first one that we did was Jose Abreu's face. It's just like a little Jose Abreu that pops up in the chat, and I've got Hawk Harrelson and Dylan Cease and Luis Robert and Yohan Moncada, and then I've got
nice.
the running TLR emote that's running in the chat. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, it's like the problem with Twitch is that it's a kind of a niche thing, and getting people to Twitch is a lot more difficult than getting people to YouTube, say, just because you have to download a separate app. Everybody's got YouTube,
Right.
So to get somebody to
It's
Twitch,
built into everyone's life at this point, YouTube.
Exactly. Exactly. And Twitch is known as like a video game type thing, I mean, they do have all sorts of stuff. And, Josh Nelson has started streaming on Twitch, and Pinwheels has also started putting their stream up there as well.
Yeah.
But like trying to get traction on Twitch is, it's not number one, you can't like search for the media on Twitch. You can't find like specific videos on Twitch of who you're looking for. Like you won't nobody will discover you on Twitch. You have to
bring your audience there.
Exactly. You have to promote everywhere else to get somebody to come to Twitch. It's that's why we're planning on simulcasting. I've got the whole thing set up. I just haven't gone through and gotten it done yet. So
yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. You mentioned the pandemic. The pandemic was such a weird time for all of this stuff. Like for us, we were running 108 Tourney in the pandemic. We got lucky that it like started right when the pandemic started, so everyone's stuck inside. So it brought so much more attention to it because we're lucky that we have stuff to talk about that's not the Sox, because we had months where we were waiting until July when that season was starting, and it was like, we don't know what's going to happen. We didn't, season gets the first part of the season gets canceled. We got the 60-game season, and then the Sox came out of the gate terribly. Like I remember they were bad right out of the gate. I'm like, man, is this rebuild ever going to absolutely work here? So what a wild time it was to like learn stuff or get better at things. But I do feel extremely lazy though, Ian, when I look at the White Sox Daily Twitter feed. I'm like, 108ers need to learn some skills, man. We don't know how to do shit. Like I see your beautiful video clips and all this stuff. I was like, man, I wish we had some skills like that, or one of us would learn some shit, because it's very impressive to watch. Now, when you're putting that out there, what are you expecting the average Twitter user to learn or take from it when you're creating that beautiful content that you put out there?
The thing about the clips is that it's kind of a hit or miss thing. Like, not to get too far into the future and the agenda here, but I could clip Tim Elko standing on the top step of the dugout and it would get 50,000 views.
Yes.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And like, I don't really know what to expect per clip of what's going to pop up there. But when Colson Montgomery's on base streak was going, Like,
Oh yeah, yep,
as soon as he got a hit or got a walk or a hit by pitch or whatever, I knew that if I put it up there, it was going to get, a lot of views. And,
for sure.
we went from, you know, we started this thing up, and last month we had 2.5 million impressions. You
That's
know,
a nice month. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that
Yeah, that's good.
I think it was May was 2.5, and then last year was 2.25, and it was 2.25 last year. And Tim Elko didn't hit a home run for the last 2 weeks of the month.
He killed him. Killed the second half of the month.
Yeah, and every team went on like a massive cold streak for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and we still managed to hit like 2.25 million. So I mean, it's like,
Very
I don't,
nice.
I don't know what the key to success is. All I know is that I
Yeah.
keep on putting it out and people keep seeing it. So
Feed the machine, and people seem to enjoy it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift over to some White Sox talk here. This is the main reason I had you on today. I want to discuss White Sox, White Sox, and also, well, no, I love the. I didn't realize that you were working at Patrick Flowers. It's funny you mentioned Patrick Flowers because the first time we did a live event, I think it was at the beginning of 2018. We did it with Sox Machine. We had Bader Brow as a sponsor at the time. And so they gave us a whole separate room. They gave us our own bartender, all this stuff, free drink tickets for lots of people. And Josh Nelson put together a panel, and Patrick Flowers was one of the panelists there. And it was funny. That was when he was with the Loop Sports.
yeah,
And we thought he was a tight ass because he had a fucking tie and a jacket on and everything. And then we get to know him. Obviously, he's a great guy. But we're like, man, that guy's going to hate us because we're, we put Treasy up on the panel. He's screwing around a little bit. I was like, man, this guy's not going to like us. But yeah, Patrick, wonderful guy. Really
yeah,
like
no,
him.
it's just what like when you aspire to be a professional, you know, you got to look the part, I suppose.
Yeah, look the part, be the part. I totally agree. Absolutely. So, all right, let's get into some White Sox. So, the one thing I want to talk to you about here is specific to the development plan, the affiliates Chris gets. One thing that you notice, the main White Sox discussion is kind of twofold. They don't develop their talent enough in the minors so that when they get here, they don't immediately get struggles. I mean, we saw it this year with Oscar Colas. We saw it in a cup of coffee last year, and then this year as well with Lenine Sosa. The other thing is they don't appear to develop enough depth to cover up for a core that, sometimes it's flailing or not. I guess the question for you is what improvements have you noticed the org making? You're following affiliate ball very regularly. Do you see some improvements, some things that are going through the pipe right now that maybe just haven't made it to Chicago, where someone like me who's only watching the White Sox is like, I don't see what the plan is here, but Chris Getz seems to be getting good marks from management. So is there something that I'm missing here?
Well, as far as Chris Getz goes, I don't really know what to say about him, because I don't know how much of it is coming from him.
Okay.
I don't know how much of it's coming out from lower, and I'm sure Kenny Williams Jr. has all sorts of a fountain of information to help things out.
Sure.
But I will say that, like as far as the improvements to the system, I think Andy Barquette being hired was a big deal for the White Sox. For those of you that don't know, he is the minor league hitting coordinator for the White Sox, and the hitting plan that he has put in place, across the entire organization, has shown some pretty decent results. Some of the guys that were kind of struggling before last year have shown some market improvement in certain areas. Pitch selection, like they've targeted that with quite a few guys. Colas was one of the guys who going into this year, that was one of the guys they were targeting on trying to work on his pitch selection. And it improved a little bit at the very beginning of the season. And then he kind of, I think he started pressing because he wasn't seeing the results.
Right.
So
Yep.
I think that kind of played a big role in just watching him kind of flounder over, the last couple of weeks he was up. And, it's an unfortunate situation, but, I think that the building blocks have been laid there with some of the drills that they do and the plan that's been put in place to try and help with things like that. One thing that I will say that is unfortunate for the minor league side of things is that they took Chris Johnson and put him into the major league side of
Right.
things, and I think that kind of is a detriment to the minor league guys because he's the kind of guy that they would go to and get their things fixed. So
Yeah, I mean, a prime example for people who are just pay attention to the White Sox is Gavin Sheets. Gavin Sheets was struggling his ass off. He went back down last year in the kind of early mid-season, and Chris Johnson fixed things, and now Gavin Sheets has been an absolutely palatable and totally fine bench bat. Like, Gavin Sheets gets a lot of hype from some people, and other people are like, he's not a regular. So what? Having a bench bat that has a above league average WRC plus against right-handed pitching is terrific. Like, what you want that? I want a team that has that. So that's interesting. Ian, you think that it's enough of a disruption with the entire program to not have kind of Chris Johnson there helping out with that?
Well, I mean, he's the head biomechanist for the entire organization. So having him in the minor leagues was very beneficial to the guys that were in the minor leagues and the guys that you're trying to prep to come up,
Yeah.
So he's a guy that can code. So he's sitting here writing programs, building like SQL searches and stuff for taking all sorts of data and throwing it into spreadsheets to figure out what it is that these guys are doing that's not working out properly, and having him in third in command or whatever in the White Sox dugout as far as hitting goes. I mean, is that beneficial? I don't know. It seems like it might be less beneficial to the guys in the minor leagues than having him in Chicago.
Yeah. So do you think that the combination of Andy and Chris were able to help some of these sort of contact first, swing first prospects the White Sox have started to have moving through the system, and Romy Gonzalez is here as one of them. Lenny Sosa was like that too. He advanced at a young age. He made a lot of contact, but there wasn't the power, and then all of a sudden that developed. Same thing with Popeye. Jose Rodriguez kind of developed like that, and the White Sox seem to have a little bit of success with getting these guys a stick in the middle infield already. So I mean, adding the hit tool, you think that's kind of like their path forward as far as developing a little bit of depth.
I mean, it definitely helps. I mean, they did the same thing with Luis Mieses. Before last year, he a lot of swing and miss. And last year they worked on his, in the ramp up before last season, they worked on his selectivity in the box, and he ended up leading the Southern Atlantic League in High A. He led the league in doubles. And, his average jumped. He went as part of Project Birmingham to Double A. Yep. And he ends up hitting 300 there as well. I mean, he hasn't done quite as well this season so far with the batting average, but
don't they have the sticky ball there? That weird thing in a Birmingham that's kind of like not leveling the playing field for the hitters.
Yeah, it's the most bizarre thing too, because the hitters have seen the results, and so you would think that somebody like a Christian Mena and Matthew Thompson would thrive with this baseball. And Christian Mena started off really good. And then just over like the last, 4 or 5 starts that he's just kind of fallen on his face, and he's had some really bad innings here and there. And I don't really have a reason as to why that is. But they say that in the minor leagues, you don't know what, somebody's working on. It could be that he's working on this pitch or he's working on that pitch. Mm-hmm. I can say one thing for certain is that even if they are working on a pitch, they're not trying to throw 50 pitches in one inning.
No one needs that much work on that pitch.
To go back to the hitting, I've seen some results here, and it's one of those, you don't know how a person's going to develop, and I can't say that somebody that has shown improvement over the last 2 years wasn't due to have that kind of a progression. Mm-hmm. But I kind of think that, when it comes to approach at the plate, that's something that has been worked on with Andy Barquette and with the staff, with the plan that they have laid out. So,
yeah, I mean, that's good and that's encouraging, especially because the White Sox as a team, even through, I mean, the only outlier year was 2021 where they brought in a bunch of bench bats that were high walk guys. But for the most part, this is an extremely low walk core right here. These guys, they swing at everything basically, and it's frustrating not only from that not getting the free passes, but also like someone like Luis Robert who's not cashing in on his power as much because he's just swinging at too much and getting some bad contact in line with it. No, so we talked about the hitting, but the pitching side is a little bereft of talent. I mean, when we're looking down even at AAA. Just for a spot starter. I mean, we got Jesse Schultens. We had a nice cup of coffee from Davis Martin last year. Then he had Tommy John surgery, so that's it. Like, on that side of the ball, are you seeing anything coming down from they call the cat slab? Is there anything that's coming down that you're noticing, Ian, that's percolating through the group? Because they spent a lot of money in bonus babies over the last few years. They got the high school kids, Kelly and then Thompson and Dahlquist and those guys. I mean, they went out and spent a lot of money on Noah Schultz, who, I'm happy to let you gush over him because we were watching on Friday night before we're getting ready for the game. We're sitting on my deck and we're all looking for the video updates. Like, man, he is dominating his first outing, which is terrific to hear. But what are you hearing, seeing on that side of the ball?
So, I mean, if you want to go to AAA and know what we have coming from AAA, I mean, you have Jesse Schultens, who they poached from the Padres. But, I mean, as far as starting pitching goes, you got Sean Burke there who's, he's going to be a piece of some sort, and he's going to probably provide something of value to you on the major league roster, but he's not ready yet. The injury that he sustained is bumped him back a bunch this year, and it's just unfortunate, that with the timing of everything. But the good thing is that they did get Jesse Schultens, and he's shown, a certain aptitude to be able to get outs in Major League Baseball, which is, is wonderful. I mean, I had been on the Davis Martin train for like 3 years at this point, and I'd been waiting for this guy to get bumped up, and then he just quickly moved through the system last year, and then got brought up, and the one thing that he had that was an issue was kind of a confidence thing of attacking hitters. Okay. And once he figured out, that, hey, I got to go out and get these outs. I don't want to sit here and nibble around the corners all the time, which he can do, but that would, like the mistakes that he would have would end up getting hit hard. Once he started attacking, it was on because his command's really, really good. So, but TJ, we'll see you next year.
Shame. Yeah, exactly. It's a damn shame because he was such a revelation last year. He was like, I didn't know a lot about him. I know he kind of shot through the minors. I knew he added some miles per hour to his fastball, and when he showed up, I was like, this looks like a real pitcher, and I'm surprised. I haven't heard too much about him. So, extremely impressive. Let me get to this drink real quick. Lil Yumper says, shout out to guys at Code. So he's talking about Chris Johnson. He says, salute. All right, so the White Sox are struggling a little bit right now. Ian, is we've all beaten to death for sure. Lots of people are looking at this as like, well, they need to sell at this deadline and do a little retool here. The Beef Loaf really thinks they should be buying. That's a whole different topic. We won't talk about that today. But in an effort to retool, where are the reinforcements coming from the farm? Because if you're going to retool, you're going to need something to come up from the minors. Like selling off Lucas Giolito, and maybe if you sell Mike Clevenger and then a handful of the relievers, you're going to get a lot of lottery tickets. You're not really going to get the ready-made guys that you would be plugging into spots here. And as we look at 2024, catcher is going to be wide open. There's several rotation spots open. I mean, second base is not a foregone conclusion. Maybe right field is going to be Oscar Colas. What do we have bubbling up from the creek, Ian, that could help out this team in 24?
In 24?
Or even 25. You throw 25 out there. We've still got Luis Robert on the roster then.
Yeah, I will say that the draft, the time when the team was supposed to be tanking and supposed to be getting all these picks, my personal opinion is that the draft picks that were made were not necessarily what should have been done. We've seen the results,
right?
And it's.
So let's go back to them. So Nick Madrigal gets drafted 4th overall.
Yeah.
I mean, where would you have gone in that spot at time and place?
My thought at the time, I liked Jared Kelenic a
Okay.
lot.
Yep.
And, he's had his fair share of struggles as well. But the thing was, is he was a high schooler,
Right.
so you can have those struggles and let them develop over a few years. That was my guy. I had also thought of, what is that? Can't remember if it was Terang or Gorman in that draft. I can't remember exactly, but Kellenic was my main guy that
Okay.
I really liked, and
Okay. Well, yeah. That's and he's on Seattle now, and you're right. He did struggle for a little bit, but now he's playing well this year.
yeah, it's not to throw anybody under the bus, but I kind of thought that the Nick Hostetler drafts in general were not good drafts. But the thing is that, as is everything White Sox, I don't know if I can blame Nick Hostetler or Rick Hahn or Kenny Williams or
Right.
Jerry or the guy that cleans the grills at the Cuban Comet sandwich stand. I don't know who's to blame.
Right.
You know?
So, it's muddled.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and say that Nick Hostetler doesn't know how to do his job or whatever, and I mean, the guy's a very nice gentleman. But one thing I will say is that the drafts that he headed up, out of the number one picks, the only one that was really has turned out to be anything serious is Jake Berger, and the guy had 2 Achilles blowout, and
Right.
then he goes to the front office as the MLB talent evaluator, and you see what we've gotten in that spot as well.
Right.
When he's been there, and it's like the talent that has been brought in there, you kind of wonder, okay, well, is the evaluation of the players, is that his strong suit? Might not be. I don't know.
Right.
So
Very murky. As you mentioned. How about Vaughn? I've long been a critic of Andrew Vaughn, and they didn't handle Andrew Vaughn great. I mean, so there's one strike against it, but I always kind of thought undersized guy. I don't know how this turns out, and right now he looks like a mediocre first baseman. Maybe he's a second division first baseman at this point in his career. I mean, were you high on Vaughn in the draft there, or did you want someone else in that one as well?
I knew it was gonna be Andrew Vaughn for quite a while, so I wasn't I didn't even bother looking too much into it,
Okay.
and say, oh, I'd rather have this guy, because I was fairly certain that was who it was going to be. And I mean, the talent's there, but again, with the pandemic year, and him only playing very minimally in minor leagues, there was bound to be some growing pains there.
Yeah.
I mean, he is driving in runs, and he's, one thing that we talked about before on my last appearance was that, we've got a lot of doubles hitters, a lot of gap to gap double hitter, and that's what he is.
That's what he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's never going to be that 40 home run guy, I don't think.
Right.
And
Agreed.
I don't think that it has to do with his stature necessarily. I think it's just the kind of hitter that he is. He hits line drives.
Yeah.
And,
well, and at least he's willing to also take a walk, Ian. That's as down as I've been on Vaughn. It's not so much down on Vaughn. It's the people's impression of what Andrew Vaughn actually is when I see him being something totally different. Good on him. He's getting better at first. I mean, he's getting better with the glove. It's showing real improvements at the that I could see, at least, for sure. So that's a good thing there with him. And I see Danny puts in the chat. He says, "Thank goodness for Mike Shirley." I like the more he takes some risks. I like to see it. We're trying to draft Dwight Gooden, and we're not trying to draft the 8th best hitter on your roster. You're trying to draft Dwight Gooden.
Especially when you've got these top picks. I mean, if you look at what the Orioles have done with, I mean, granted, they really tanked and they got the first overall multiple times, and they turned that into Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. I mean, they've got legit, top the guy that that when you draft him, there's pretty much no chance that he's going to flop. Unless you get lucky and get a Mark Appel type deal, where he just completely loses confidence and can't throw strikes. But I mean, everybody that they've drafted has turned out to be a guy. I'm watching what's his name? The kid on the Orioles that was #1 draft pick last year. Jackson
Oh, is it
Holiday.
Holiday, yeah.
Watching him play the dash and watching him play the ballers, and I'm just like, man, it must be nice. Because that kid, like one game, he's a home run shy of the cycle.
Yep.
The next day, he's a single shy of the cycle. 2 games in a row against guys that pitched in college. He's, coming out of high school
Right.
and doing this 2 days in a row. And, he swung and missed, I think 10 times in the entire series.
Goodness.
I mean, we have never seen anything like that in the White Sox farm system. And so we watched, Luis Robert come up, and he was hitting balls in AAA, in Durham over the bowl and 2 blocks down the street, and that was awesome. But you'd still see him swing and miss at sliders from good pitchers, and this kid just does not do that. And it would be nice to see one of those kind of guys make his way through our system at some point. But, you have to get that #1 overall pick to be able to get somebody like that. So,
yeah, your lips to God's ears on that one. Brenda asked in the chat, did I miss out on chatting about Kannapolis? Not yet. We're getting there. We're getting there very shortly. It's coming. It's coming. One thing I want to ask you, Ian, is your early thoughts on Pedro Grifol. I've been asking a lot of my guests this because I'm trying to formulate opinion, understand. I'll put some stuff out on Twitter sometimes when I'm intoxicated, maybe not the most thought out things, but early on, I'm just trying to get a feel for what he is as a manager. What do you think? What are your early thoughts on him?
I like the message that I've heard from him, how it's worked in practice. I don't know necessarily that his intentions for how he wants things to work have obviously worked out at this point. And, I don't think that he was thinking that there was going to be as many discipline type issues and, just the want of the players to push themselves to be the best that they could be. I think that, he wasn't thinking that motivation was going to be a thing. When he has to bench Luis Robert for, just jogging to first base and stuff like that. I don't think that he thought that that was going to be necessarily an issue. But, this is the problem with the World Baseball Classic is that, the guys that we were counting on to gel as part of the team, Lance Lynn, World Baseball Classic. He's had a rough time, and I kind of think that there's some sort of mechanical issue there. That either that or he's just getting old. That's possible as well. But Luis Robert not there, Yohan Moncada not there, which he came out pretty decent. You can't complain about that. Yeah. But there's just you don't get your entire team together to install this philosophy at the beginning of the year because 10 of your guys are missing, so that doesn't help things. Has he gotten better as the year's gone on? I mean, I think so, a little bit. But I think that a lot of that coincides with some of them remembering how to throw strikes again, which when the bullpen just stops throwing strikes or Michael Kopech's giving up 5 home runs in a game,
Make any manager look bad.
What's the manager supposed to do? I mean, at that point,
don't throw the home run ball.
Hey, throw. It's like the kids in Little League. Just go throw strikes. Just go throw strikes. You're good. You're good. Just throw strikes. Yeah. Well, if it was that easy, everybody would do it, right? So,
right. Exactly. Well, it's an interesting point about the World Baseball Classic. Not just the performances. 'Cause obviously, Lynn has been rough. Tim was okay before he got hurt. I mean, there was an injury there too. Luis has kind of been Luis. I mean, Luis has been the best position player, basically. I mean, it depends on how you grade it. Jake Berger in limited time has killed the ball too, so that we'll put them right there next to each other. But you're right about not having the cohesive unit together. So it's and I always wonder too, in these situations at the very top levels, how much of the manager is Hey, he's just telling me when I take the ball, and you don't really gain anything from the manager other than, oh, he tells me to do this or whatever, and you're not really. I mean, some guys probably need more mentorship or like you're saying, motivation than other guys. Other guys just, I'm going to show up and do my job. Yeah, I like the guy just fine, whatever. Or we disagree on some shit, but we can work together. And it's kind of interesting thought about like bringing the whole group together there. So
I mean, there has to be like one things that trying to remember who it was. Dan Duquette said on Major League MLB Network the other day. That a team doesn't really start to play to their potential until they start playing for something greater than themselves. And he said part of the problem with the Padres is that you've got a lot of guys that are looking out for personal stats. And he said that, same thing with the White Sox, is that they haven't gotten to that point yet where everybody's like pushing forward for the team. And I mean, I can't speak to that, who knows if TA comes and watches this and says, "Oh, that's complete BS." But
it's true. It's tough. It's tough to know from outside if that's the case. But that is a good point. Given that if you are all kind of working together and being a little more selfless, that generally does kind of push up all the parts.
Generally. But then again, so does having elite level talent. It's like you tell me that the White Sox has signed Bryce Harper in that free agency year. I think that regardless of whether they were playing like a team or not, if they had a Bryce Harper, that they would get more wins, which is the ultimate goal.
Agreed.
But nobody, they haven't spent that kind of money.
Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate, and true. It would have been such a great gambit at the time to get Harper. I mean, Harper was a better fit than Machado, even though I like both of them, but he was a better fit in right field there. So it's unfortunate. Now I'm sad, but we're going to move on to a very fun part of this show because I'm going to let you riff on some guys here. So I wanted to bring you on because I need three names for myself and the listeners to start watching out for in the lower minors. I need you to bring me some guys. Don't take my one guy because we're going to talk about him very last because there's a guy down there that I really I've seen a little bit for, and I know he's a little older prospect. I don't care. All right, I like dingers, but go ahead and throw me some guys, Ian.
All right, so one of the things that you'd asked me about with the retooling of being guys that could come up and make a difference in 2024, which we had mentioned a little bit earlier, but just like, and this is like guys that are major league ready right now from AAA. I mean, you have Victor Reyes and Nate Mondu and Adam Hazley. You picked up Victor Reyes and Nate Mondu as free agent guys, and they've both been hitting really well in AAA. Now, granted, it's Charlotte, but both of these guys are hitting over 300 and have shown that at least that they can play at a major league level. Adam Hazley's come up; he's shown that he can play at a major league level, and that's important. For injury's sake, obviously we got Colas down there as well, and Lenny and Sosa. But those guys are kind of grounded right now. They're like, you're going to go to your room and you're going to figure out to not chase these pitches, and then you can come out and watch, have your phone back and watch YouTube.
That's right. It's true.
But obviously the Jesse Schultens thing is good. But as far as bullpen guys, because if this team does turn into sellers, one thing that they're absolutely going to do is deal some of these bullpen guys.
For sure.
So the one thing that they did, which, a lot of people were like, oh, here we go again. Alex Colomé comes back. And when he was brought up, he didn't look all that great. But since going back down to Charlotte, over the last, say, week and a half or so, he started looking a little bit more like Alex Colomé.
Oh, nice.
Getting some nice movement, down and into lefties and away from the right-handed hitters, and he's looked a little bit better. You also got Tanner Banks there, which since being there as well, and thing is that it would have been nice if he was a starter. So you could get a little bit more length out of him, but
right.
You can get 2-3 innings out of Tanner Banks, and he can navigate through a major league lineup. I mean, granted, he might give up a run here and there, but if you're looking for a long relief arm when you've shipped off all your bullpen arms because you don't need to worry about making the playoffs. He's the kind of guy that you need, when somebody's going to get, when you have piggyback, which I'll be using that word in a few more minutes. Jesse
like
Schultz and Tanner Banks, you could piggyback those two guys together and get 7-8 innings out of them.
Yeah, there's your starting pitcher right there. There's exactly.
And I would even possibly recommend starting Tanner Banks as he's left-handed, and we could end that streak of no left-handed starts for 175 games or what it is now.
Is that since Dallas Keuchel was jettisoned? Is that the last one?
I'm pretty sure that's the last one. I can't remember even who the last one is at this point. You got a couple of other guys that are big arms in AAA, in Lane Ramsey and Declan Cronin. And those guys have like plus like nasty stuff. The thing that's been lacking with those guys has been the consistency.
Okay.
And once they figure out how to consistently have the results that you're looking for, i.e. clean innings all the time, then you'll see them move up. But I mean, those guys definitely have a chance to make it up and be a part of the White Sox in the later this year or next year.
Now Ramsey's a huge guy, right? He's the guy who's like 6'9" or something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember hearing his name, but not seeing too much from. You had mentioned Sean Burke previously. Like, you think at this point the White Sox in some instances are pushing these guys a little too fast because he was a 21 draft pick, right? And he was already like rushed up to AAA. Or do you think it's just like there's no such thing as a pitching prospect? Guy can get out, so let's keep pushing him up the levels.
I thought last year when they bumped him up to AAA, I thought that maybe it was a little bit soon.
Okay.
Just because the results that I saw in AA, while mostly good, he still had hiccups. And then they moved him up to AAA, and I was like, okay, well, I get it that you need – last year starting pitching in AAA was brutal. I mean, they had 80% bullpen games last year, So, I got
just ran out of starters. There were no starters.
There were none. And the thing was that this year, it looked like they went out and signed Nate Fisher and Schultens. And, they still need starting pitching in AAA. I mean, there's still a lack of good starting pitchers in AAA. I mean, they moved Garrett Davila up from AA from the Barons, and he's a left-handed pitcher as well. He's another one of those guys. I mean, I would qualify him as a one of those crafty lefty type guys.
Okay.
Lots of curveballs. Velocity is not going to blow anybody away, but his command's good, and he can throw people off with his changeup as well. He's a good pitcher. I just don't know how it's going to translate to the White Sox. It's one of those things that we'd have to see how it's going to translate. I mean, Mark Burley, nobody thought that when he got drafted that he was going to translate to being a Major League Baseball player, pitching, hundreds of games, and throwing perfect game and no hitters,
But those are the rarities, the crafty lefties like him, or the fact that Rich Hill's like my age and he's still pitching in the majors. Like it's there's some of them can make it, some of them can figure out how to do it, and some can't. Nathan Sheba, thank you for the drink. He says Dan Victor believes in Lane Ramsey, so he does too. So cheers, Nathan. Appreciate you.
As far as like AA goes, Luis Mieses, fourth in doubles in the Southern League. He could possibly make a run. Andy Barquette calls him the Dominican Darryl Strawberry.
He's lefty bat, right? He's a lefty corner outfielder guy. Okay.
Yeah. And they put him in a little bit at first, but he's an outfielder by trade. And we talked about Mena and Matthew Thompson, up and down. And I don't know that there are going to be guys that can make that. I thought at the beginning of the year that Mena was going to be able to make that jump, but he's had a tough run the last couple of weeks. So, but there are a couple of bullpen guys there. Caleb Freeman, who's been the closer in AA, he's got some nasty stuff. And then there's another guy who's got my favorite pre-inning ritual, if you will. Takes the rosin bag and he just slams it down on the mound before he starts pitching. It's awesome. It's Fraser Ellard.
Nice.
Yeah, he's he started off the year injured, and he's had a couple of rough outings since then, but he's got some pretty nasty stuff as well. You could see him kind of matriculate his way up as well.
Oh, sweet. So you're feeling at least in the bullpen, there are enough arms to cover if they decide to deal 4 of these guys, because it's like you could see them really going off and saying, all right, Kelly, Middleton, Santos, a bunch of these guys. I mean, whether you'd like to see those guys go or not go, but like if they don't get in a selling spree, it might go that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be. I mean, somebody's going to. I mean, I know that we've seen the things, saying that they're buyers.
That's what I want, Ian. Personally, I want them to buy.
I don't know. Like you have to give out something to get something, and it's like what you're going to have to give to get something that's going to make this team markedly better. I don't know.
It's going to hurt.
It's gonna hurt, but I mean,
or if you even have it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Are you going to have what somebody else wants to be able to do that?
Yeah.
So let's see. DJ Gladney, Wilfred Veras, down in Advanced A. Those are guys that could be pretty good movers. I mean, DJ started off really hot, and he kind of cooled off for a little bit, but now he's starting to turn it back up again. He's been playing a lot of outfield, and he's been doing really well. You can see him start to move up, but I don't know, if it's going to be 2024 moving up, Now,
DJ, he started at third, right? And then there was some concern that he might have to move over to first. So him being in the outfield it seems like a good improvement there.
Yeah, they had him at first for a little bit, and like he can play it, but is that going to be his? How many corner infielders do you really need?
Not many.
Because you had Wilfred Veras playing first base as well,
and
doing the same thing, and they've got him in the outfield as well. And he's shown that the arm is really good. He's had a bunch of outfield assists this year,
nice.
Gunning guys out. He's got a good arm, and I think he's if he's not lead, it's DJ and Veras have been kind of like fighting for the lead in hits and. The Sal down in Advanced A,
nice.
And it's been good. So I don't know.
I mean, that's Ian. That's the team in the affiliates, right? The Winston is the team that's been playing well. Is that is that correct compared to like record wise at least?
It's been the Dash have been the best. The other one, I would say. How about this? I'll say this: the ones that have been pleasurable to watch are the Dash and the Ballers.
Okay.
The Barons have been a really, really tough watch. I'm trying to manifest some goodness here.
I see that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. That's been a tough watch, and Charlotte's been the same. Where just the guys that you want to see, you haven't gotten as much as you would hope. But the lower teams have been a lot of fun to watch, and go ahead and move along to that.
Sounds good.
Advanced A, the pitchers that I had kind of as guys that would be quick movers that would help us possibly in 2024 would be Jonathan Cannon and Tristan Stivers, which you've got Cannon out of Georgia that we drafted last year. He's got a 1.14 whip and a 2.84 ERA, so he's been doing, a really nice job of keeping people off the bases, and he's a pretty polished pitcher. Like how that's going to translate once he moves up a level,
right?
We'll see.
But as the hitting talent increases comparatively, that's when you'll be able to get the true test, right?
Yeah, and same thing with Stivers. The guy's got his curveball is just gross. And nice. And he throws hard, and he's All-American at Texas State. Stopper of the year in college baseball last year, so he has some pedigree, for what he is. So that stuff's good. Also, I'm not gonna. I know you wanna wait and talk about your guy here.
My last.
Yeah. So as far as like the hitters in A-ball that I'm going to talk about before I let you mention the other guy, Jacob Burke and Bryce Willits. Bryce Willits was Jordan Sprinkle's teammate at UCSB.
Okay.
And he was just named the Carolina Player of the Month for the Cannonballers, and he hit something like 360 in May, and
wow.
had like 5 home runs and like a 1070 OPS or something for the month.
Nice.
So, yeah, the thing that he needs to be working on is the glove. He's had some errors over at third base. That's one of those things that hopefully will improve with time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So if you want to move along to the guys that are like the deep cuts of the vinyl here,
Yes.
we can certainly move on to that.
Absolutely. So let me get my guy out of the way first. Is Tim Elko going to be my biggest crush since Daniel Palka? Because I don't know if you know this, Ian. The 108ers loved Daniel Palka. It was a nice thing to have during the rebuild years to have a folk hero type guy show up here and smash 27 home runs, especially in a year when Jose Abreu got hurt. And it was like, wow, the one guy that we're here usually rooting for, we got this guy. And then I see this Tim Elko guy come around, and I'm seeing him all over the internet bashing home runs. I know he's 24 and in A ball. I don't care. Tell me about Tim Elko.
So they call him the captain. And as far as human beings go, I've gotten nothing but like rave reviews about the guy. Apparently,
Nice.
he is like a wonderful human being, and he hits the ball hard. Yesterday, he hit 2 home runs. He hit a grand slam, and then he hit another home run line drive, 114 miles an hour. So, the bat is good. The thing that I will say is that he can hit the ball hard. My main concern with him is the bat to ball.
Okay.
Because his K percentage is somewhere in the neighborhood of 30%.
Okay.
And that's one of those things that when people put up red flags for a prospect as he's going up, that is one of the key red flags. Now, does he keep it 30% and just keep 30% all through his ascension through the minors up into the majors? I don't know. It's possible, because one thing that has become very apparent is that if he can get his bat on the ball, it's going to go far. And he'll take walks as well.
Okay.
But his walk rate compared to his strikeout rate is, it's a little bit of a chasm.
Yeah,
So-
and generally you're seeing K rates grow as you go up. The arm talent improves at AA, and as it goes up, and you really have some problems there. And the upper bound for strikeout rates, I mean, like you can get a rarity like Joey Gallo be in the mid 30s, but most of the real sluggers in MLB got to stay below 30, otherwise they get in trouble there.
Yeah, and also I will say he better not be put in right field. Like Daniel, I'm gonna lose my mind. I've just seen so many first basemen in right field. I am so over that. So we'll go for guys that are kind of like the below the radar guys.
Yeah.
That most people, unless you're really paying attention to our Twitter, are guys that you're not going to really pay a whole lot of attention to. And I'm only doing AA, Advanced A, and A.
Sounds great.
The Knights, whatever.
Out of here.
So the hitter that I have tabbed for the Barons is Alexander Womack. You know his dad, Tony Womack.
Oh yeah, yes.
He used to play for
Diamondbacks.
the D-backs and all that. Yeah. So Alexander Womack is, to me, he is a Minnesota Twin. He's the kind of guy that you don't know what he does well, but you can't say that he doesn't do something well.
Okay.
And he's supremely annoying to pitchers. He works counts. He makes nice plays in the field. He's been playing second base most of the time. He doesn't have the body to really look like he's going to be a second baseman, but he's surprisingly quick, and he's been hitting home runs in Birmingham.
Oh, nice. Yeah, tough ballpark hit homers.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Which, and like the thing is that power wasn't necessarily part of his game. Bat to ball was more of his thing, and working walks and stuff like that. But he's been hitting home runs. So,
Nice.
he's been a pleasant find, and you'll see if you go and look on our at Daily White Sox on Twitter, you will see a bunch of those Womack type tweets there that you probably find fun.
Excellent.
And he also loves baseball, which is really awesome. The pitcher that I have that people don't necessarily know, Tommy Summer. His dad, Jurgen Summer, was the first American goalie to play in the Premier League. So that's kind of fun.
Wow.
But he is a left-handed pitcher, and he's, like I said, he's one of those guys that people don't really pay too much attention to, and like he doesn't have like that high draft stock.
Okay.
But he generally does not walk people a whole lot. And his strikeout to walk rate is generally pretty good, and he doesn't give up big innings. And he's left-handed. We need left-handed starters.
Yeah, God forbid we have one.
Oh man, driving me nuts. So Advanced Day. I already mentioned Tristan Stivers. That was the pitcher that I have marked as the guy that not a lot of people. Yes, Tristan Stivers. The guy that is one of those guys that not everybody knows who he is, and he was drafted a little bit lower, and a lot of people said that he might be a steal in the draft at the time. Turns out he looks pretty good. He's a nice closer to have. The hitter that I have for Advanced Day, and if you've been paying attention to our Twitter, I've been pounding this guy down people's throats for a couple months now. Terrell Tatum. You might know him by his other nickname, Jack Leiter's daddy. He is a outfielder with plus speed, has a good arm, has good bat to ball, has some power, and he's leading Advanced A, the Sal in Advanced A with walks and stolen bases.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, so he can hit a home run. He can steal a base. He can get triples. He can get doubles. I mean, he's pretty much an all around kind of player. And is he, going to be? I mean, it could turn out that he ends up being somebody like Vince Coleman. Where he can steal bases and he can hit a home run every once in a while, but he's going to be, kind of annoying. Which is. And
so this is a player that's going to stay in center field. This is a center fielder all the way kind of thing.
Yeah. He's not gonna be one of those guys who's probably gonna hit 35. But I mean, you could get a good 10 out of him, but you'll get, especially with the rule changes and everything, you could get 50, 60 stolen bases out of him. So I like that a lot. We'll move on to Kannapolis, and I've got two pitchers from Kannapolis. One that, and I'll also mention another one. There was Connor McCullough who threw a no hitter for the Ballers. It was a 7-inning no hitter, but he got promoted to the Dash last week.
Okay,
but he's not one of the ones I'm mentioning. I'm just bringing him up as he's a guy that maybe you want to pay attention to him. The two guys that I have as far as pitchers go, and Brenda will like this. Mason Adams. He's been a guy that they've been using in a piggyback situation a lot, where you've got a guy starting, and I mentioned this to somebody on Twitter yesterday because people were asking me about Jared Kelly and if he had been moved to a long relief guy because he had been piggybacking with other people. And I don't think that that's what their plans are for any of these guys, is to move these guys into long relief roles, especially somebody like a Jared Kelly. He's young. He started injured. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to monitor the pitch counts on a bunch of these guys. So what they're doing is they're kind of bracketing two individuals together and monitoring the pitch counts and keeping everybody in these windows here of what they're doing. So the
Astros did this. The Astros were pretty famous for doing this when they were trying to bring up a lot of starting pitchers. They would piggyback them. They would do like this move right here. So you got 3 innings each, maybe, or four, depending on how many pitches you can throw that day. Yeah, and so they would get you double your starts that you can get out of it if you're structuring it that way. So it's interesting
Exactly.
approach here.
It also allows you to not tax your bullpens because in the lower levels, when somebody has a bad inning, they pull them out quick. You know, they don't let them go above 30 pitches. If they hit 30 pitches in one inning, that's it. They're done. They get pulled out of the game. So that's been one of those things. So Mason Adams, 1.24 WHIP, and he's got 36 to 8 strikeout to walk number.
Oh, very nice.
So he doesn't walk anybody. Yeah, he doesn't walk anybody, and the stuff is good. And the thing is that he's a 13th round draft pick. Like we talk about Mike Shirley, and thank God for Mike Shirley. Like I'm sitting here watching all of his draft picks, and we're talking like deep draft picks. We're not talking the top guys. We're talking these guys that are in the back of the draft, and all of them are looking like they're doing things. The other guy, 14th rounder, Shane Murphy, also pitching for the Cannonballers. He was the 14th round. He's got a 43 to 7 K to walk rate.
Wow.
And like people are wondering like who is this guy who's got a .92 whip? And people are like, where the heck did this guy come from? It shouldn't really be like a huge shocker. His brother Patrick is in the twin system, and I believe he was like the 16th overall pick in the draft 4 years before he got drafted. Or no, actually 7 years ago, he got drafted out of high school. So it really shouldn't be like too much of a surprise that this guy's doing something. But the White Sox ended up picking up him up in the 14th round, and here he is in Kannapolis with a .92 whip.
Good start. Especially, it sounds like neither guy has any fear of trusting their stuff in the zone if they're walking so few people like this. No. Go ahead, hit it. See if you can hit it.
Exactly. And it's like the thing is, the movement for both of these guys is good enough, and they'll live up high with the fastballs, but like all the breaking pitches and everything, nobody's hitting them really all that well, and keep on doing it until you have to adjust. Like that's the name of this game is adjust. And the guy, the hitter for advance or not for advance for the Cannonballers is Bryce Willits. Already talked about him, but player of the month for the Carolina League. So
for May, right? Yeah. The player of the month
for May ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ian, this has been outstanding. You're giving me. And I've already kind of I liked the early round stuff. That's all I can really surmise from Mike Shirley, that he seemed to take more chances. He seemed to not be married to some playbook. It was just, hey, who do we think is best? All right, let's spend a bunch of money on this big lefty who's 6'9", and we're going to gamble here. And well, no one converts a 6'9" player to a starting pitcher. There's 4 of them ever or whatever. And he's like, F it, we're doing it anyway. So, but the lower round draft picks, you're really giving me a little more hope than what I had before. I was a little worried about the development side, the drafting side here, but something to watch out for White Sox fans.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about I want to make it known about these guys that are lower in the system that you don't necessarily hear a lot about, because everybody hears about Noah Schultz, everybody hears about Colson Montgomery, everybody hears about Brian Ramos, everybody hears about guys like that.
Yep.
I mean, and all 3 of those guys started off injured, but we won't mention that.
Minor detail.
But I mean, these guys, these are the guys that every night you see on our Twitter feed, but they're not names that anybody's really familiar with. And it's kind of one of those things that I'd like people to know who these guys are. So when you look at the, we don't really do the top 30, we leave that stuff for future Sox, they can make their rankings and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But so you have some sort of a foundation of what you're looking at when you see this list. You can be like, oh, okay, I saw that guy in a bunch of highlights last season or earlier this season when they do their update. That's who this guy is. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love it, Ian, and I love you. Giving us some color behind some of these names, because I think a lot of White Sox fans, they would like to be more interested in the minors. They would like to engage a little more, but they need this. They need the introduction. They need that, and what you guys do in the videos and everything. It's absolutely terrific. I want to thank you for coming on, bestowing your wisdom on creating a brand, which I didn't realize Patrick Flowers was involved with way back when. Of talking about White Sox affiliate ball, Pedro Grifol, Tim Elko, and lots of deep cuts in the White Sox matters. Remember, we're not trying to be right on the show. We're just trying to understand. Ian, do you have anything you want to plug before you get out of here?
We go out on Twitch and we stream. Usually it was on Mondays, but now every once in a while it's been on Tuesdays, and it's actually been on Wednesdays the last 2 weeks just because schedules haven't lined up. But we go and we talk about the White Sox. We talk about the minor league stuff. We show video highlights every once in a while and generally just have a good time and goof around. And there's that. At Daily White Sox on Twitter. We have a Facebook group, and we also have a YouTube page which has all our streams on it as well. That's pretty much about it.
Excellent. I appreciate the conversation, Ian. You'll be well, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. That was Ian Eskridge. I've been waiting for that conversation, so I hope a lot of you enjoyed how in-depth we got there on some of the minor league stuff. I don't have that knowledge base, and that's why I love talking to a guy like Ian who does have that knowledge base. Next week's guest, no one. I'm going to be at a bachelor party this weekend. I'm going to be in Toronto, so I'm going to probably be hungover on Monday, so I'm not going to bother with that. Just want to say thanks again to Ian Eskridge. Thanks to all the 108 family who was up in the YouTube comments. Appreciate all you smashing the like button, comments, and of course, your drinks and tips. See you later. I love you. Bye-bye.